One of the great things about birds is all you got to do is look out the window to see a variety of species. Now we have with us today Dr. Chris Marsh, and Chris is the director of the Low Country Institute on Spring Island. He's a great ornithologist, and he's going to tell us a little about what we can do to attract birds to our yard. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Tony. Well, right off the bat, remember that birds need food, they need cover, but they especially need water. And right here we have a great water feature that has all the characteristics that a good water feature needs. First of all, it has sound of running water. It has shallow areas where the birds can get in and bathe. And it also has some places where the birds can perch so that they can check things out before they come through the area. Even this little wax myrtle is a good perching place for the birds before they drop down into the water feature. Of course, you can do it in a much more simpler way. A simple bird bath works as well.
So we got everything we need for the birds. So I think what we need to do is back away from these feeders and see what we can get to come in.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've given the birds a little more space, and hopefully something will fly in here in a minute. But what do we mean by cover? When you say cover, tell me specifically what you're talking about.
Tony, what we're talking about is that every yard needs a safe place for the birds to go, somewhere where they can hide and be safe from hawks, cats, etc. For example, in this particular yard, this is a wild one, but it has a section there where the shrubs are still allowed to grow high. Matter of fact, with their feeders, you can see there's quite a few different types.
Yeah, and I know the type of food that you offer the birds sometimes attracts different species, right?
Definitely. And when you're setting up feeders, you'd like to have more than one type of food. It's just like a restaurant.
Well, you want to see more than one type of bird.
Exactly.
Or more than just a few birds.
And so there's a lot of different bird feeders out there and a lot of different types of seed. But in the case of the seed feeders, sometimes the simplest way to do it is to have more than one feeder. Put sunflower in one, black oil seed it's sometimes called, and I suggest millet for the other one. Of course, the other thing that they like is something like a platform feeder, and you can get special mixtures, so it depends upon how involved you want to be.
You know, you can look at a bird bill and tell a lot about what it eats, right?
That's correct. As a matter of fact, most of the birds that come to the feeders that have seed will often have a conical or triangular shaped bill because they use that fat base of the bill to crack open the seed, but if you watch carefully, they're going to toss the husk away and just swallow the kernel inside.
Like a cardinal, for instance.
A cardinal, right? I mean the sparrows as well. But some birds like the titmouse or the nuthatch will grab a sunflower seed and peck it open. So there's more than one way to do that.
I noticed a lot of other stuff comes to your bird feeder.
People love getting birds in their backyard because they love nature, but they also get other types of wildlife. Now, people have a love-hate relationship with squirrels. You know, for most people, they get in the gray squirrel, and they sometimes see that as a nuisance because it's eating their bird seed. People often put in baffles or have other contraptions to try to keep squirrels off.
Or even mechanisms that sling the squirrel off if he touches the
which is one of my favorites.
Yeah, not everybody loves having squirrels in their backyard.
That's right.
Sure.
Matter of fact, if you look at the feeder right now, there's some birds on that platform side on the right. These are chipping sparrows. They've got the little rusty cap and the very small bill, but it's still conical, showing that it's a seed eater.
Sparrows are difficult. That's one of the toughest groups, for sure.
That is, and that's the ones, though, that if you watch them closely, they have great colors, but you got to be really close to see it. Of course, most people prefer cardinals and other more brightly colored birds.
I tend to like the bright colored birds.
That's right. That's
sure.
when you know you have a bird nerd. That's somebody who loves sparrows like I do. I see we also have a chickadee on the feeder. Chickadees are great because they feed in all different ways. This one loves going for sunflower seed, but they also go to suet. And of course, they love the water. So
I noticed they'll fly in, grab something, then fly back to a tree.
That's correct.
So fly back into that cover that's so important.
Exactly, and then in that tree they'll peck open that seed. So they should also be nesting here anytime soon. So having a birdhouse nearby would also help as far as attracting birds, particularly the chickadees. Here's a titmouse that's just arrived, and look, there's a white-breasted nuthatch on the left side of the feeder grabbing some seed right there. One of the things about nuthatches is nuthatches and woodpeckers excavate a cavity in dead wood. So they need either a dead branch or a dead tree somewhere.
Yeah, I've seen them peeling bark back and trying to catch insects and things under the bark.
Correct.
Right?
They're usually an insect eater, but they
and
love seed as well.
They're a fine-looking little bird.
They are.
Sure.
It's the only bird that goes head first down the tree, so great one to watch. I see a male American goldfinch has shown up. They have just molted so that they're coming out of their winter plumage to their summer plumage.
That's one of those that I can identify because
That's
it has
the kind of bird that everybody
yellow
likes.
On it.
It's that kind of colorful bird that really gets people started in bird watching.
So what would you want to use in a feeder for a goldfinch?
They like a variety of seed, and actually this one, even though people think of thistle, this one's going for black oil sunflower as well. So By having the variety of seed out there, it increases your chances of the different kinds of birds being attracted to the feeder.
Boy, it's starting to pick up here, isn't it? We're starting to see some
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the fact that you have trees in the backyard will attract woodpeckers. And I see there's a little male downy woodpecker that's on the pine tree over there. Notice it's got a little red cap on the back of the head. That lets you know it's a male. Suet's another great way to attract those woodpeckers if you put a suet cake out.
And so are they eating the suet, or are they eating the insects that are attracted to it?
They are actually eating the suet. It's very high fat, high energy, and they love it. One of the things about suet feeders, though, is that's a good winter, cold weather type feeder to have. In the summer, they get a little soft. So put it out in the winter, but don't worry about it in the summer.
So what can we do to attract nesting birds?
During nesting season, it's really important to provide either cover for some birds, such as the cardinals, the towhees, Carolina wrens. They need those thick areas that provide cover during the rest of the year as well. But then there are birds that would nest normally in nature out in old cavities. And those are the birds that we put up birdhouses for.
Bluebird boxes.
For example, bluebirds and chickadees, they like it as well. The kinds of birds you attract to birdhouses depends upon the size of the box and the size of the opening.
And the size of the opening, I remember that.
That's right. So that's a great way to bring in birds where you can really get to know them well and personally by watching them go through their life cycle in terms of how they reproduce and watching the babies come out.
So Chris, we've seen some really cool stuff, but what other sorts of things would you expect to see at a feeder like this?
In most cases, what you expect to get are, of course, the cardinal, blue jay, titmice, chickadees, the nuthatches, different kinds of woodpeckers. Red-bellied woodpeckers are a common one that people see as well. But in some places, there are some special birds that you might get. And in Beaufort County, one of those is the painted bunting. It's a spectacular bird. The males are the ones that everybody notices because of all the colors.
They are beautiful.
And they migrate from here down to Cuba and South Florida. The females, though, are the ones that are sort of greenish, and they sometimes are overlooked.
That's often true in birds, isn't it? The
that
males
is the
are much
case.
more brightly colored than the females are.
As a rule, there's a few exceptions, but that's the basic rule. But if you're going to be sitting on a nest, you don't want to be advertising yourself with all those bright colors.
Blend in. So if you're really, really interested in learning the birds, what is the best way to go about it?
Well, one of the first things to do is to get yourself a bird book, a bird identification book, and to start looking at the pictures. Get one for this particular area. That makes it easier. Certain types of birds are found just in the southeast. Also, there are websites. So just start looking at the images, and most of all, spend a lot of time just watching the birds, because they're great as far as their behavior, and you never know what new kinds of birds are going to show up.
Chris, thank you so much for showing us some of the beautiful birds that live in our own backyard.
It's great being here. This is a spectacular backyard for birds, but just we want to remind everybody that every backyard can be great for birds if you do what you need to attract them there.